Captain Marcus Vane knew his ship better than he knew his own face. The obstinate Defiance was an old freight hauler, patched and repaired so many times that almost nothing original remained. But she was his. He had bought her with 15 years of hard work, hauling cargo through the most dangerous parts of space. Every sound she made, every vibration in her hull, every whisper in her air vents, he knew them all. So when he heard something wrong in Cargo Bay 3, his heart went cold. It was late in the ship's night cycle. Marcus had been unable to sleep, so he walked the corridors as he often did, checking seals and reading diagnostic panels. The sound was soft, almost nothing. A breath, a shift of weight. Something alive was in that bay, and it was not supposed to be there. He pulled his pistol from its holster and moved quietly to the cargo bay door. His finger found the release panel. He counted to 3 in his head. Then he opened the door and stepped inside, weapon raised. The bay was filled with crates of terraforming equipment bound for a colony world 3 systems away. Emergency lights cast everything in a dim red glow. Marcus moved between the crates, his boots making no sound on the metal floor. He checked corners. He checked shadows. He found nothing. Then he looked up. She was curled in the narrow space between 2 tall crates, pressed against the ceiling supports. Her scales shimmered like crushed sapphires in the red light. Great wings were folded tight against her spine. A long tail wrapped around the support beam for balance. Her eyes opened, eyes like pools of molten gold, and she looked down at him with an expression that seemed almost amused. A Dracari. Marcus had seen Dracari before, but only from a distance. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, rulers of vast territories, conquerors of 1,000 worlds. They'd been sailing between stars when humanity was still living in caves. They were beautiful in the way that predators were, beautiful, dangerous, and perfect. She dropped from the ceiling and landed without sound. Standing, she was taller than him by half a head. Her scales caught the light as she moved, blue and purple and hints of silver. She wore simple clothing, dark and practical, nothing like the elaborate robes he had seen in pictures of Dracari nobles. "Captain Vane," she said. Her voice was like smoke and honey, soft and dangerous. "I was wondering when you would find me." Marcus kept his pistol aimed at her chest. "You know my name. I know many things about you." She smiled, and he saw rows of teeth designed for tearing flesh. "Your ship. Your cargo routes. Your habits. You always walk the corridors when you cannot sleep. How long have you been on my ship?" 6 days. 6 days. He had been carrying a Dracari stowaway for 6 days and had not known. The thought made him angry and afraid in equal measure. Why? He demanded. "Your kind doesn't hide in cargo bays. You don't need to hide from anyone." Something flickered in her golden eyes. For just a moment, the predator's confidence seemed to crack. "Perhaps," she said, "I am not like the rest of my kind." "That's not an answer." "No, it is not." They stood in silence, the human and the dragon, neither willing to move first. Marcus thought about his options. He could shoot her, but Dracari were tough. One pistol shot might not be enough, and if he missed anything vital, she would kill him before he could fire again. He could try to lock her in the cargo bay, but those claws looked strong enough to tear through metal. He could contact the nearest station and turn her over to authorities, but which authorities? The Dracari had their own laws, and they did not involve human courts. "What do you want?" He asked finally. "Passage," she said. "Nothing more. I need to travel without leaving a record. Your ship goes to places where no one asks questions. I can pay. I don't need Dracari money. Then perhaps I can offer something else. Information, labor, protection." Her smile returned, sharper this time. "I am quite good at protection. Marcus lowered his pistol slightly, though he did not put it away. "You're running from something." She did not deny it. "Your own people?" Still nothing. He should throw her off his ship. He should contact someone, anyone, and make her someone else's problem. The Dracari were not known for mercy, and whatever trouble she was in would become his trouble if he helped her. He had survived this long by avoiding exactly this kind of complication. But there was something in her eyes. Behind the gold, behind the predator's calm, he saw something he recognized. Fear. Real fear. The kind that came from being hunted, from having nowhere safe to go. He knew that feeling. He had felt it himself, long ago, when he was young and alone and the universe seemed designed to crush him. "I'm going to regret this," he muttered. Her eyes widened slightly. "You will let me stay?" "For now. Until I figure out what to do with you." He finally holstered his pistol. "But you're going to answer my questions. All of them. And if I find out you've lied to me about anything at all, I'll drop you on the nearest rock and leave you there. Understood?" She studied him for a long moment. He could not read her expression, could not tell what she was thinking behind those ancient eyes. "Understood," she said at last. "My name is Sereth. I don't remember asking." "No, but you were going to." Another smile, smaller this time, almost genuine. "You are not what I expected, Captain Vane." "What did you expect?" "Someone simpler. Someone easier to predict." She tilted her head, watching him with open curiosity. "Your species is very young. Most of the galaxy considers you barely more than clever animals. But there is something in you that does not fit the pattern. I'll take that as a compliment. It was not meant as one. It was meant as a warning." Her golden eyes held his. "I have been watching you for a long time, Captain. Longer than you know. And I still cannot decide if you are very brave or very foolish." Marcus turned and walked toward the door. "Probably both," he said over his shoulder. "Come on, I'll show you where you can sleep. And tomorrow, you're going to tell me exactly why one of the most powerful species in the galaxy is hiding on my ship like a scared child." He did not see her flinch at those words. He did not see the pain that crossed her face, there and gone in an instant. But he would learn. In time, he would learn everything. The truth came out slowly, like blood from a deep wound. Sereth did not want to talk. She answered questions with questions, gave half-truths wrapped in silence, deflected with that predator's smile. But Marcus was patient. He had dealt with smugglers, pirates, and criminals of every species. He knew how to wait. On the third day after he found her, she finally broke. They were sitting in the ship's small mess hall, sharing a meal of rehydrated protein and synthetic vegetables. Outside the viewport, stars drifted past in the endless dark. Sereth had barely touched her food. She stared at the stars as if they held answers she could not find. "I am a warden," she said suddenly. Marcus looked up from his meal. "What's a warden?" "A hunter. An investigator. When the Dracari High Matriarchy needs someone found, they send a warden." Her claws tapped against the table, a nervous rhythm. "We are trained from birth. We do not fail. We do not stop. We track our targets across the galaxy if we must." Sounds like a hard life. It is the only life I have known. She finally looked at him, and her golden eyes were tired. "I was sent to find you, Captain Vane." Marcus went very still. His hand moved slowly toward his pistol. "Do not," Sereth said quietly. "If I wanted to kill you, you would already be dead. I am not here to harm you. I am here because—" She stopped, searching for words. "Because you did something I cannot understand." "What did I do?" "You saved someone. 3 months ago, in the Corvin Disputed Zone. A derelict vessel, drifting without power. You found it during a cargo run." Marcus remembered. A small ship, its engines dead, its life support failing. He had not been planning to stop. Salvage rights in disputed space were complicated, and he had a schedule to keep. But his scanners had shown life signs. Faint, but real. A family, huddled in the cold dark, waiting to die. He had saved them, brought them aboard, fed them, given them medical care, dropped them at the nearest station, and wished them well. He had not asked for payment. He had not asked for anything. The family I rescued, he said slowly. What about them? One of them was not what she seemed. Sarath's voice was heavy. The youngest daughter. She was traveling in secret, using a false name, wearing common clothes. But she was the child of a high matriarch, one of the rulers of the Dracari Empire. Marcus felt his stomach drop. I didn't know. Of course you did not. That was the point. She was fleeing an arranged marriage, running from her own family. When you saved her, you disrupted plans that had been years in the making. You inserted yourself into Dracari noble politics without even knowing it, and they sent you to find me. Yes, Sarath's claws stopped their tapping. I was to determine who you were. Whether you were an agent of a rival faction, a spy, a fool who stumbled into something larger than himself. If you were a threat, I was to eliminate you. If you were simply unlucky, I was to report that as well. What did you decide? She was silent for a long moment. I followed you for 14 systems. I read every cargo manifest, every communication log, every record of every deal you have ever made. I watched you negotiate with merchants. I watched you drink with dock workers. I watched you share your food with refugees who had nothing to give you in return. Her golden eyes met his. I decided that you are the strangest creature I have ever encountered. Marcus did not know what to say to that. Your species confuses me, Sarath continued. You have no scales to protect you, no claws to fight with, no wings to carry you to safety. You live barely a century, then die. By Dracari standards, you are children-breathed flames that flicker and go out. And yet, you throw yourselves into the void for strangers. You risk everything for beings you will never see again. You carry refugees on your ship, knowing they cannot pay you, knowing you may never be thanked. It's just the right thing to do. That is what I cannot understand. She leaned forward, intense. Among my people, nothing is done without calculation. Every action serves a purpose. Every gift creates a debt. The idea of helping someone for no reason, expecting nothing in return, it does not exist. It is not possible. It's possible, Marcus said. It's just rare. It should not exist at all. And yet here you are. She shook her head slowly. When I sent my report to the matriarchy, I told them I found nothing. I said you were nobody, a simple cargo hauler who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I falsified my findings to protect you. Marcus stared at her. Why? Because you did not deserve to die. And because... She hesitated, and for the first time, she looked uncertain. Because I wanted to understand. I wanted to know how a creature so fragile could be so brave. What happened when you sent the false report? Nothing, at first. But other wardens were assigned to verify my findings. They discovered the truth. They discovered that I had lied. Her voice went flat. The penalty for a warden's betrayal is death. But first, they will want to extract information from me. The location of the matriarch's daughter. Your identity. Everything I know. So you ran. So I ran. And I came to you because I had nowhere else to go. Because you are the only person in the galaxy who might understand what I have done. The mess hall was very quiet. Outside, the stars continued their slow drift, uncaring and cold. Marcus thought about what she had told him. He thought about the girl he had saved 3 months ago, young, frightened, grateful to be alive. He thought about the universe and its endless complications, The way a single act of kindness could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. "Other hunters," he said, "they're still looking for me?" "Yes, and for me. They will not stop until they find us both." He should have been angry. He should have thrown her off his ship and run as far as he could. This was exactly the kind of trouble he had spent his whole life avoiding. But he looked at her, this ancient predator, this dragon of the stars, sitting alone in his mess hall with fear in her eyes, and he felt something unexpected. Not attraction, not pity, something stranger, recognition. "Then I guess we're in this together," he said. Sareth blinked. "You would help me? After everything I have told you? You could have killed me. You could have turned me in and gone back to your life. But you didn't." He pushed his food tray aside and stood. "That means something. Maybe not to your people, but it means something to me." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, something like wonder crossed her face. "You are the most foolish creature I have ever met," she said softly. Marcus grinned. "So I've been told." That night, for the first time since she had come aboard, Sareth slept without nightmares. And Marcus lay awake in his cabin, staring at the ceiling, wondering what he had gotten himself into. He did not know yet that the hunters were already on their way. He did not know that blood and fire waited for them in the black between the stars. But he would learn. Soon enough, he would learn. They came at the edge of the Corvin Nebula, where the stars disappeared behind walls of purple and crimson gas. Marcus was at the helm when the alarms began to scream. 3 contacts, moving fast, coming out of the nebula like sharks rising from deep water. His scanners painted them in sharp detail. Dracari interceptors, black as obsidian, shaped like daggers made for killing. Sareth appeared at his side in an instant. Her golden eyes went wide when she saw the scanner display. "Wraith-class hunters," she said. "The fastest ships in the Dracari fleet. Friends of yours?" "Former colleagues." Her voice was flat, but he could hear the fear beneath it. "They have found us." The comm system crackled. A voice came through, speaking in the Dracari tongue, harsh and musical at the same time. Sareth listened, her face going pale beneath her blue scales. "What are they saying?" Marcus demanded. "They are offering terms. If I surrender now and give them the information they want, they will make my death quick." She paused. "They say nothing about you. They consider you irrelevant, nice to feel appreciated." The interceptors were closing fast. On the scanner, he could see their weapons powering up energy signatures that made his own guns look like toys. The obstinate Defiance was a freight hauler, built for cargo, not combat. Against 1 Dracari interceptor, he might have had a chance. Against 3, he had none. Sareth turned to him. "You should surrender," she said quietly. "They want me, not you. If you hand me over, they might let you live." Marcus looked at her. Then he looked back at the approaching ships. Then he smiled. "Strap in," he said. "This is going to get rough." He turned the ship and dove straight into the nebula. The Corvin Nebula was a graveyard of failed stars. A cloud of gas and dust and electromagnetic storms that could blind sensors and cook electronics. No sane pilot flew into it willingly. The Dracari interceptors hesitated at the edge, their perfect instruments suddenly useless. Marcus did not hesitate. He knew his ship. He knew what she could survive. The nebula swallowed them whole. Outside the viewport, reality became a churning sea of colors, purple and red and flashes of electric blue. The hull groaned under pressure waves. Warning lights flickered across every panel. But the obstinate Defiance held together because Marcus asked her to, because she had never let him down. The interceptors followed. They were faster and more maneuverable. But inside the nebula, speed became a liability. Marcus cut his engines and let the gas currents carry him, drifting silent and dark. He watched his scanners, tracking the enemy ships by their energy signatures, bright spots of heat in the swirling chaos. "What are you doing?" Sareth asked. She was gripping her seat with both hands, claws digging into the metal. Thinking. He found what he was looking for, a dense pocket of gas, rich with charged particles. He fired his maneuvering thrusters in short bursts, pushing toward it. The interceptors adjusted course to follow. "They are closing," Sareth warned. "I know." Marcus reached the gas pocket and stopped. He began working the control panel, rerouting power from non-essential systems. Life support dropped to minimum. Lights went dark throughout the ship. Every spare watt of energy flowed into a single system. "Captain, what?" "Quiet. I need to concentrate." He overloaded the ship's external capacitors and vented them into the gas cloud. The charged particles ignited. A wave of electromagnetic energy exploded outward, blinding and beautiful. Two of the interceptors flew straight into it. Their sensors went dark. Their engines stuttered. For a few precious seconds, they were blind and helpless. Marcus hit the main engines at full power and rammed the nearest ship. The obstinate Defiance was not a warship, but she was heavy. 3,000 tons of metal and cargo slammed into the interceptor's side. The impact threw Marcus against his restraints. He heard Sareth cry out. He heard metal screaming, his ship and theirs, grinding together in a terrible embrace. The interceptor's hull cracked. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship spun away, crippled. Marcus pulled free and turned toward the second blinded ship. Before it could recover, he fired every weapon he had: old projectile cannons, mining lasers meant for cutting asteroids, even a modified welding torch he had never gotten around to removing. None of them were military grade. None of them should have been enough. But sometimes enough was not the point. The second interceptor's engines exploded. It tumbled into the nebula, trailing fire and debris. 2 down, 1 left. The third ship had stayed back, outside the electromagnetic pulse. Its pilot was smarter than the others, more careful. It circled at the edge of weapons range, waiting for an opening. Marcus was bleeding. The impact had opened a gash on his forehead, and blood dripped into his eyes. His ribs ached, cracked, maybe broken. The ship around him was failing, systems damaged, hull integrity compromised. He had nothing left. The third interceptor moved in for the kill. Then Sareth did something unexpected. She reached past him and activated the ship's communication system. She spoke in her own language, her voice cold and commanding. Marcus did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. It was the voice of someone who had stopped being afraid. The interceptor slowed, stopped, hung in space, waiting. "What did you say?" Marcus asked. "I told them who I really am." Sareth's golden eyes were hard as stone. "Not just a warden. My mother was a high matriarch. I am nobility, Captain. If they kill me without trial, without the proper rituals, their families will be shamed for 1,000 years. Will that stop them? No, but it will make them hesitate." She looked at him. "And hesitation is all we need." Marcus understood. He fired the engines one last time, pushing the battered ship toward the far side of the nebula. The interceptor followed, but slowly now, uncertain. By the time its pilot decided to attack anyway, they were gone, lost in the swirling chaos, limping toward open space. Behind them, the nebula burned with the wreckage of 2 draconic warships. Marcus slumped in his chair. The adrenaline was fading, and the pain was becoming real. His vision blurred. His hands shook on the controls. Sareth caught him before he could fall. "You are injured," she said. Her voice was strange soft in a way he had not heard before. "I noticed. You should have surrendered. You should have given me to them. You would have been safe." Marcus laughed, then winced as his ribs protested. "Lady, I didn't haul cargo through pirate space for 15 years to roll over for a bunch of overgrown lizards with authority issues. She stared at him. Then something happened that he had not thought possible. She smiled. A real smile, with no predator's edge, no calculation behind it. Just a moment of genuine, unexpected joy. "You impossible creature," she said softly. "You wonderful, foolish, impossible creature." She carried him to the medical bay and tended his wounds, with hands that were meant for killing but moved with impossible gentleness. And as the damaged ship limped through the dark toward safety, something had changed between them. Neither of them spoke of it. But they both knew the hunt was not over. The Dracari would send more ships, more hunters, more death. But for the first time, Sareth believed they might actually survive, because she had found something she never expected to find among the stars. She had found someone worth fighting for. Viren's station hung in the space between empires, a place where no flag flew and no law held absolute power. Smugglers did business with merchants here. Refugees hid from the wars that had destroyed their homes. And damaged ships came to be repaired, no questions asked. As long as the payment was good, the obstinate Defiance limped into port, looking like she had lost a fight with an asteroid. Dock workers stared as Marcus guided her to a berth. The hull was scarred and dented. Entire sections of plating were missing. Smoke still leaked from damaged systems. It was a miracle she was flying at all. Marcus needed parts. He needed medical attention. He needed time to think about what came next. Sareth needed to make a decision. They spent 3 days on the station, while the ship was repaired. Marcus negotiated with parts dealers, argued over prices, traded favors he would probably regret later. His ribs were wrapped in bandages beneath his jacket. His head still ached from the wound, now held together with medical glue. He moved slowly, carefully, but he did not stop moving. Sareth watched him from the shadows. She watched him haggle with a merchant over a replacement power coupling, then give the merchant half the price for free when he learned the man's daughter was sick and he could not afford medicine. She watched him share a meal with a dock worker, listening to the man's stories about his home world, destroyed in a war Marcus had never heard of. She watched him find a family of refugees huddled in the lower levels of the station, thin, hungry, afraid, and give them food from his own supplies without asking anything in return. "You do this everywhere you go," she said on the third night. They were sitting in a small drinking establishment, surrounded by species from a dozen different worlds. "You help people, strangers, beings who can never repay you." Marcus shrugged. "Someone has to, but why you? Why does it have to be you?" He was quiet for a moment, staring into his drink. When he spoke, his voice was different, older somehow, carrying the weight of years. "When I was young, I had nothing. No family, no home, no ship. I worked on freight haulers, cleaning decks and loading cargo, sleeping in corners and eating scraps. The galaxy was big and cold, and it didn't care if I lived or died." He took a drink. "But sometimes someone would be kind. A captain who gave me extra food. A dock worker who taught me how to repair engines. A stranger who saw a scared kid and decided to help, even though they didn't have to. Those moments, those small acts of kindness from people who had no reason to care, they kept me alive. They made me who I am." He looked at her. "So now I try to be that person for someone else. Because I know what it's like to have nothing. And I know what it means when someone reaches out a hand." Sareth did not know what to say. Among the Dracari, such sentiment would be considered weakness. Helping strangers was inefficient. Kindness without purpose was a waste of resources. The strong survived by being strong, not by lifting others. And yet this fragile creature, this brief flame of a human, had survived 15 years in the most dangerous parts of space. He had defeated Dracari warships through sheer stubbornness and cleverness. He had looked at her a predator, a hunter, an enemy, and chosen to help her anyway. Maybe strength was not what she had always believed it to be. Later, in the ship's medical bay, she found him trying to change his own bandages. He was doing a terrible job of it, wincing with every movement, struggling to reach the wounds on his own back. "Stop," she said. "Let me." He hesitated, then nodded. She took the bandages from his clumsy hands and began to work. Her claws, designed for tearing flesh, moved with careful precision. She had never tended wounds before. Wardens did not heal. They hurt, but she found that it was not so different from the training she had received. The same attention to detail. The same steady hands. "Why did you become a warden?" Marcus asked quietly. "I did not choose it. I was chosen." She finished wrapping his ribs and moved to the cuts on his arms. Among the Dracari, children are tested from birth. Those with the right qualities, speed, intelligence, ruthlessness, are taken for warden training. I was 3 years old when they came for me. I do not remember my parents. I do not remember anything before the training. That's terrible. It is simply what is done. The matriarchy requires hunters. The children provide them. There is no cruelty in it, only efficiency. That's still terrible. She paused in her work. No one had ever called her life terrible before. No one had ever suggested that it could have been different. "My people believe that strength is dominion," she said slowly. "The measure of a species is what it can conquer. We have ruled for 10,000 years because we are stronger, faster, more powerful than any other race. We take what we want because we can. This is the natural order. And what do you believe?" She did not answer immediately. She finished bandaging his wounds and stepped back, looking at him, this broken, bleeding human who had fought dragons and won. "I believe I was wrong about many things," she said at last. "Your kind measures itself differently. Not by what you conquer, but by what you protect. Not by what you take, but by what you give. You build things instead of destroying them. You connect instead of dominate." She met his eyes. "It is terrifying. And I think it is why your species will outlast mine." Marcus stared at her. "That's a big statement." "Perhaps. But I've watched the galaxy for a long time. I have seen empires rise and fall. The Dracari are old and powerful, but we are also frozen. We do not change. We do not grow. We simply endure, the same as we have always been." She moved closer to him. "Humans are different. You adapt. You learn. You find new ways to survive, new reasons to fight. Every generation is different from the one before. You are chaos and potential and endless possibility. The old races fear you, Captain. Not because you are strong, but because you are unpredictable. Because we cannot calculate what you will become." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, just slightly. "I think that's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. It was not meant as a compliment." "I know, but I'll take it anyway." They sat together in comfortable silence. Outside the viewport, the station's lights glittered against the dark. Ships came and went, carrying cargo and passengers to distant stars. The universe continued on, vast and indifferent. "What will you do?" Marcus asked finally. "When the ship is repaired, where will you go?" Sareth had asked herself that question 100 times. She could disappear. The galaxy was vast, and even Dracari hunters lost trails eventually. She could find some quiet moon and live out her extended lifespan in obscurity. It would be safe. It would be logical. But looking at him now, this impossible man with his bandaged wounds and his stubborn heart, logic seemed like a small and insufficient thing. "I am staying," she said. Marcus blinked. "What? With you?" "With this ship. With whatever comes next." She held his gaze. "I am no longer a warden. I am no longer Drakari, not in any way that matters. I am something new, and I want to find out what that means." He studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Okay," he said, "but you're helping with cargo duty. I'm not running a charity here." She laughed a real laugh, surprised out of her like something she had forgotten she could do. "Agreed, Captain." The repairs were completed the next day. The obstinate Defiance was scarred but whole, ready to fly again. Marcus and Sereth walked aboard together, partners now in a way that neither of them fully understood. They did not know that word of their battle in the nebula had reached the highest levels of Drakari society. They did not know that the High Matriarchy itself had taken notice of the human who had destroyed 2 warships with a cargo. They did not know that a reckoning was coming, but they would face it together. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The High Matriarch came to Viren Station with a fleet of 20 ships. They appeared without warning, emerging from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Warships surrounded the station, their weapons charged, their message clear. The station's administrators received a single demand: surrender the human called Marcus Vane and the traitor called Sereth, or watch their station burn. The administrators, terrified, agreed immediately. Marcus learned of the ultimatum when station security came to arrest him. 6 guards, armed and nervous, standing at the airlock of his ship. They would not meet his eyes. "I'm sorry," the lead guard said. "We have no choice. The Drakari will destroy us all." Marcus looked past them, through the station's transparent walls, at the fleet hanging in space. 20 ships. Any one of them could turn Viren Station into debris. Against that kind of power, there was no negotiation. There was only submission or death. Sereth appeared at his side, her golden eyes fixed on the fleet. "The flagship," she said quietly. "The gold one in the center. That belongs to my grandmother." "Your grandmother is a High Matriarch?" "I told you. I am nobility." Her voice was bitter. "Much good it has done me." The guards raised their weapons. "Please," the leader said, "don't make this harder than it needs to be." Marcus thought about his options. He could fight. He could run. He could try to hide somewhere in the station's maze of corridors and maintenance tunnels. But none of it would matter. The Drakari would tear the station apart, looking for them. Innocent people would die. "Okay," he said. "I'll come with you. But I want to speak with the matriarch directly." The guards exchanged nervous looks. "That's not our decision to make." Then pass the message along. "Tell her the human wants to talk." They took him to the station's main diplomatic chamber, a large room usually used for trade negotiations. Sereth walked beside him, her head high, her fear hidden behind a mask of royal composure. Guards surrounded them on all sides. They waited for an hour. Then 2. Marcus sat in a chair designed for larger species, his feet not quite touching the floor. He tried to look calm. He was not sure he succeeded. Finally, she came. The High Matriarch was ancient. Her scales had faded from blue to silver white, the color of glaciers. Her wings were folded against her back like weathered sails. Her eyes were gold like Sarath's, but deeper, older, carrying the weight of centuries. She moved slowly, deliberately, each step a statement of absolute power. She sat across from Marcus and studied him like a scientist examining an insect. "So," she said. Her voice was ice and stone. "You are the human who has caused so much trouble." Marcus met her gaze. He did not bow. He did not lower his eyes. He sat in his chair like an equal, because in his mind, that was exactly what he was. "I'm Marcus Vane," he said, "captain of the obstinate Defiance. I hear you wanted to see me. I wanted to see the creature that destroyed 2 of my warships. I wanted to understand how a primitive species could accomplish such a thing." She tilted her head. You were smaller than I expected. I get that a lot. The matriarch's lips curved in something that might have been a smile. You have courage. That, at least, I did not expect. Most humans beg when faced with draconic justice. I've never been much for begging. No, I can see that. She turned her ancient eyes to Sereth. Granddaughter, you have brought shame upon our house. Sereth did not flinch. I did what I believed was right. You betrayed your oath. You lied to your superiors. You protected an outsider over your own people. The matriarch's voice hardened. You are a disgrace. Then execute me. That is why you came, isn't it? To make an example. Perhaps. Or perhaps I came to understand. The matriarch leaned forward, her golden eyes intense. Why? Why would a warden, a member of our highest caste, throw away everything for a human? What did this creature offer you that was worth more than your honor, your family, your life? Sereth was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but steady. He showed me another way to live. She told the matriarch everything. The rescue, the tracking, the weeks spent watching Marcus move through the galaxy, helping strangers, risking his life for beings he would never see again. She described the battle in the nebula, not the tactics, but the spirit behind them. A man who refused to surrender. A man who fought impossible odds, because giving up was not in his nature. Humans are not like us, Sereth said. They do not measure strength by dominion. They measure it by sacrifice, by connection, by the willingness to suffer for something greater than themselves. I had never seen anything like it. I could not look away. The matriarch listened in silence. Her expression revealed nothing. When Sereth finished, Marcus stood up. You want to know what humans are? He said. His voice was calm, but there was fire beneath the calm. The same fire that had carried him through pirate space, through the nebula, through 15 years of fighting to survive. I'll tell you. He stepped forward until he was standing directly in front of the matriarch. She could have killed him with a single swipe of her claws. She did not move. 3 months ago, I found a ship drifting in space. The people inside were dying. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know your granddaughter was among them. I just knew they needed help, so I helped them. That's it. That's the whole story. He leaned closer. You can burn this station. You can hunt me across the galaxy. You can kill me right now. But it won't change anything. There will always be another ship, another human, another fool willing to do the right thing for no good reason. That's who we are. That's what we do. And you will never stamp it out. The diplomatic chamber was silent. Guards stood frozen, uncertain. Sereth watched with wide eyes. The matriarch stared at Marcus for a long, long time. Then, impossibly, she laughed. It was not a cruel laugh or a mocking one. It was the laugh of someone who had lived for centuries and had finally been surprised. Your species is very young, she said. You barely understand the stars you sail between. By every measure of civilization, you are nothing a brief spark in the darkness. She rose from her seat, towering over him. But I begin to see why the old prophecies speak of you. Marcus blinked. Prophecies? Ancient writings, made before the Dracari Empire began. They speak of a species that would arise from an insignificant world weak of body but strong of spirit. A species that would not conquer through force, but through something else. Something we did not understand. Her golden eyes held his. We still do not understand. But perhaps that is the point. She turned to Sereth. You are no longer a warden. You are no longer of our house. You have chosen your path. She paused. I do not agree with your choice, but I will not stop you from making it. Sereth's mask cracked. Tears gathered in her golden eyes. Grandmother, go. Live your strange life among the humans. Learn whatever they have to teach you. The matriarch moved toward the door. And perhaps when you have learned it, come back and teach us. We are old, child. We have forgotten what it means to grow. She stopped at the threshold and looked back at Marcus. Captain Vane, you have earned something rare today, the respect of a high matriarch. Do not waste it. Then she was gone. The fleet withdrew. The station was spared. Marcus and Sareth stood alone in the diplomatic chamber, surrounded by silence. What just happened? Marcus asked. I have no idea. Sareth wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I think you just changed the 1,000 years of Dracari policy by being stubborn. Sounds about right. They walked back to the ship together. The obstinate Defiance was waiting for them, battered and scarred, but ready to fly. Ready to carry them wherever they needed to go. At the airlock, Sareth paused. Where now? She asked. Marcus thought about it. There was cargo to haul, routes to run, the endless business of staying alive in a galaxy that did not care. But there was something else now, too. A purpose. A reason to keep going beyond simple survival. Wherever someone needs help, he said. Sareth smiled. It was a real smile, full of warmth and wonder and something that might have been hope. Then let's go find them. The obstinate Defiance left Viron Station and disappeared into the stars. Behind them, the Dracari fleet departed in silence. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the old prophecies continued to unfold. Humanity was young. Humanity was fragile. Humanity was small, but humanity was not alone. Not anymore. And that made all the difference.